Night driving sells a different truth than daylight. In the sun, roads draw borders and everyone agrees on the rules. After midnight, the lines blur and a quiet lane can feel like a question you answer at 60 miles an hour. Dashcams exist for that gap. They keep staring when your eyes flick to the mirrors, and they hear the smallest change in tire hiss when the road is no longer just road. These 5 clips begin with nothing. Empty asphalt, a routine turn, a harmless shape, and then plant one detail you can't unsee. If you've ever told yourself it's probably nothing, watch with the volume up and tell me you don't hear the moment the night decides that you're company. Clip 1 is 2:41 a.m. on a county road in late fall, the kind that alternates forest walls with open fields. The driver, a nurse heading home from a double, crests a low hill and brakes for a shape dead center in the lane. An infant car seat. It looks scuffed, tilted, with a blanket looped over the handle. She slows to a crawl, hazards on, inching forward. Her dashcam mic records the tick of cooling vents and her breath. A second later, the high beams paint the ditch and something resolves that was only suggestion before. A forearm tucked against the weeds, pale in the light, still. The camera autofocus hunts, then sharpens on 4 fingertips sliding back out of sight. Her hand reaches for the shifter and finds reverse. The backup lights flare white on the signposts behind. That's when the car seat skates an inch toward her bumper, pulled by a line you can't see until it catches moonlight. She doesn't honk. She says, firmly, no, and eases backward, watching the shoulder mirror. Down the road to her right, a pair of headlights sits dark behind a hedgerow and blinks on like a thought. The car inches forward from its hiding place and stops halfway into the road, crooked, enough to make passing feel like a dare. The nurse stays in reverse, straightens her wheel, and backs into the oncoming lane to create space. When the other car commits, she slams into drive and threads the gap between the centerline and the moving decoy, her horn finally cutting the scene in half. The dashcam catches a man stepping from the ditch with the pull line still in his hand. He freezes as her taillights rocket away. Later, deputies sweep the stretch and find the car seat empty, drilled through the base with a hole for the fishing line. There are 2 sets of shoe prints, one by the weeds with the right heel missing a small square, another by the hedgerow. The report lives on a sheriff's Facebook page nobody would have seen if she hadn't uploaded the clip. Clip 2 is a city ring road at 1:13 a.m., the kind of beltway that wears orange sodium like a necklace. The driver is a rideshare courier deadheading home with a pizza sign still magnet to his roof. His lane is empty until a box truck glides out from an on-ramp well ahead and holds 60 exactly. Our driver tucks in, passes on the left, and notices 2 things that feel wrong together. No DOT numbers on the truck and a sedan with 1 headlight matching him on the right. The next minute shows a quiet choreography. Each time he eases to pass the truck, it drifts left without signaling. Each time he drops behind to slot right, the sedan slows to meet him door to door. The smooth, practiced, like 2 hands shaping clay around him. The dashcam picks up the radio scan in the courier's car and the way his breath shortens by a half beat. He taps his brakes to flash the truck, then signals to exit. The sedan anticipates and sways just enough to nudge him away. Ahead, the truck's liftgate has a rag hung over the plate and a long scratch like a smile. The courier picks a different move. He signals right again, then commits hard left, punching the gap between truck and concrete barrier. The truck drifts farther left, expecting him there, and clips a reflector. Our driver threads the opening, spikes to 75, and the sedan commits too late, slingshotting into a lane with a patrol car sitting dark on the shoulder. The cruiser wakes like a shark. The clip ends with the patrol car leaping forward and the box truck's turn signal finally blinking, late and wrong. The courier exits at the next ramp, calls in the attempted rolling roadblock, and sits under a gas station canopy with the camera still running. You can see his hands shaking when he unsnaps the pizza sign and tosses it into the trunk. Like taking his uniform off will make him feel uninteresting again. Clip 3 lives in a suburb that pretends to sleep. It's 12:58 a.m., a 4-lane arterial flanked by storage units and dark car lots. The driver is a grad student heading home from a lab, windshield salted with fine mist. Up ahead in his lane is a flattened, moving box with a strip of tape still clinging like a flag. He signals left to straddle it, but then something changes. The box crawls a foot sideways without wind. He brakes a fraction too late to avoid it clean, hears a muffled thap, and keeps rolling. 10 seconds later, the car pulls right on its own. The dashcam mic records the hiss of air that wasn't there before. He checks mirrors and sees a hatchback behind him kill its headlights, then pull to the shoulder the exact moment he does. He stops under a dead streetlight, puts on hazards, and leaves the engine running. Before he can open the door, a shadow unfolds from the hatchback's passenger side and starts walking toward his bumper carrying nothing. The student rolls his window down 2 inches and says he's fine. Silence. Then the man smiles like a neighbor and taps the glass near the taillight, asking him to pop the trunk so they can check the spare. Through the dashcam's rear window, another figure eases out of the hatchback's driver's side and crouches by the student's rear wheel, head low, hands busy. The grad student says he already called roadside, which is true, because his thumb is on 9 and 1 at the same time. The man leans closer and says the tire is hissing bad, that he has tools, that getting out now will save the rim. The mic picks up a soft metallic chitter from behind, the sound of tape peeling free. The student says he will wait for the tow, thanks, and lifts his phone to show the glowing screen through the glass. The man's tone changes. He tries the rear door handle with his fingers crooked like a hook, then steps back, palms up, friendly again, as if it were a test he hopes the student fails later. Blue washes the street a block away. The walking man glances at it and melts toward the hatchback. The student puts the car in reverse and creeps back 50 feet, keeping the locked doors between him and the shapes. The hatchback follows at a crawl with its lights still off, then slows when a patrol SUV swings into the lot from the opposite end. The second figure stands, something thin in his hand, and drops it behind his leg as the SUV noses closer. The dashcam captures the license plate of the hatchback as it signals, hesitates, and then slides away without ever quite turning its lights fully on. The officer walks to the box, lifts it with care, and shows the camera the underside. Roofing nails taped upright under a loose flap, 2 lodged now in the student's tread. They take a report, move the box, and wait while a tow truck swaps the wheel under the orange hum. In the daylight, the mechanic finds a slit near the sidewall that looks like it came from a utility blade, shallow but hungry. Clip 4 begins with a mirror flashing red and blue from nowhere. It is 1:55 a.m. on a rural highway that usually belongs to deer and trucks. The driver, a woman headed home from a closing shift, sees the colors bloom in her rear window from a sedan with no light bar, just a visor strobe twinkling behind tinted glass. The voice on a bullhorn is flat. Pull to the right and cut the engine. She reaches for her blinker and does something you can hear in her breath before you see it on screen. She dials 911 with her thumb and says her mile marker and that an unmarked car is lighting her up. The dispatcher says no units are calling a stop on that stretch and asks her to slow, put on hazards, and drive to the next well-lit exit. In the audio you can hear how strange it feels to obey and refuse at the same time. She clicks her hazards on and eases to 50. The unmarked sedan tucks closer, the visor lights stuttering too bright, the horn barking once in frustration. The dispatcher keeps talking, gives her the cross street, and tells her which side of the lot to aim for. Ahead, a gas station glows like a stage. The dashcam sees another shape there. A county cruiser waiting by the ice machine, black and white under buzzing tubes. The visor lights behind her flick off like a wish. The sedan drifts into the oncoming lane, noses up beside her, and the driver cups a hand to his face, hiding and staring in the same motion. He mouths something the mic can't catch and then falls back. She pulls into the light and stops by the cruiser. The deputy steps out, hears her story on speaker, and flicks his gaze to the road just in time to see the unmarked car blow past the entrance without turning in. 2 minutes later, dashcams, hers and his, record the same thing from different angles. The sedan accelerating hard into darkness, the deputy pulling out with his bar lights rolling, and the thin rectangle of a temporary tag taped where a plate should be. The report ends up in a bulletin. The useful detail is small. On the visor unit in the fleeing car, one LED bubble is cracked and winks out of rhythm whenever the road ripples. You do not forget the way a fake uniform misses a button or a fake light misses a beat. Clip 5 looks harmless even after you know the ending. It is a county line road that shrinks from 4 lanes to 2 and crosses a narrow bridge over black water. The driver is a night janitor headed home with a mop bucket rattling in the back. At 3:07 a.m., 3 orange cones appear in his lane 20 yards before the bridge, spaced like a zipper. A sedan sits beyond them with its hood up and hazards ticking a tired beat. A man waves from the shoulder, one hand high, the other cupped to his ear like he can't hear. The janitor slows and rolls his window down a thumb, polite habit shaping a dangerous minute. The dashcam catches the tell he almost misses. The cones aren't random. A clear monofilament line threads the nearest 2 at bumper height, barely visible until his headlights rake them. Beyond the stalled car, something moves behind the bridge rail and then disappears. He clicks his locks. The waving man steps toward the center line and points at the janitor's front tire, then pats his own pocket like he has a wrench. The camera's mic records crickets, water, and the hiss of his own breath as he decides not to stop. He signals left, then right, telegraphing uncertainty, and then backs up instead, slow enough to seem shy, far enough to make the geometry change. He rolls back until his bumper clears the first cone, then angles across the center line and threads the shoulder before the bridge. The waving man lunges, caught short by the taut filament. Behind the rail, a second figure rises, then sinks as the janitor's engine climbs. The dashcam records a clean pass, cones toppling, the hooded sedan yawing in the mirror, no contact. He drives 3 miles to a way station lit like noon and calls it in. Deputies later find lines strung across both lanes and fresh footprints in the mud. 5 clips, 5 quiet traps. After midnight, you don't conquer roads. You outweight people, and you keep the recording.